Men, and as usual, I use the word in the loosest possible sense of the meaning. We're going to do another video about crankcase repairs. This one ain't a Harley crankcase. This is off of some kind of a single-cylinder Japanese bike. Another YouTuber, a guy named Kincade Krankcase, contacted me, and we're doing a kind of cross-promotional thing. He's done some time-lapse videos of assembling some of these Jap motocross, dirt bike kind of things, and asked me if I would weld this up for him in exchange for some cross-promotional consideration. I said, sure, why not? If you guys have watched my channel, you probably saw the video where I welded that Harley crankcase with the big chunk knocked out of it. You know, this is going to be a real similar technique. It's got some cracks around this screw boss over here, but we're going to do basically the same thing. I'm going to clean the hole out a little bit, fabricate a replacement part. I got a piece of scrap aluminum that should be just fine for that. It's got this was actually sealed up with JB weld, and apparently it ran that way for a while. So we're going to sandblast all the JB weld off of it, dress up the area a little bit to get it cleaned up, make the fabrication part, and weld it all together. So I will include a link to Kincade's YouTube page in the comments below, and we'll show you how we do this. First thing, let's take it apart. It looks like he did me the favor of putting all new crankcase bolts in there, because I'm sure I don't have any metric shit laying around. Oh, it's real. Oh. Good Lord, that's a lot of bolts for a little motor. The undamaged side looks to be just that, pretty much undamaged. Looks like there's been a little hand working going on in here. And the side that counts. Seemingly it threw a rod. We're going to have to get the remnants of this JB weld out of there. We'll sandblast it out of there. Doesn't look like anything too, you know, no metal inserts that will interfere with the welding. We'll sandblast this all up in the area. We'll throw it in the oven, we'll bake it, and we'll weld it up. Okay, we're zoomed in a little bit on the broken area. I got a piece of scrap. I must think this is probably 6061. Most of what I buy for projects is 6061, and this is cut off of something. The hardest part of the repair piece is going to, you know, I'm going to try to bend it a little bit to match this radius. If I just welded it on there flat, by the time I relieved it enough to clear the flywheels, it's going to get pretty thin. So I'm going to try to put a little arc on it. But anyway, off to the sandblaster, and then I'll be back. Alright, so here's the bending operation. Found a chunk of steel, more or less the same diameter as the internal diameter of that crankcase. Clamped my piece of scrap up in a vise and just whacked it with a hammer to form it around the chunk of steel. That's all there was to that piece of cake. Okay, the piece of scrap aluminum damn near exactly matches the curve of the crankcase. So we're going to do some cutting and trimming on that and make it fit. Okay, the other area of concern I have is this. you got a crack here that goes pert near all the way around. This was packed with epoxy, so there's probably epoxy down inside here. If I try to weld over that without getting the epoxy out, it's going to fuck the weld all up. So I'm going to have to open it up with the Dremel tool to make sure I got all the crud out of it. The crack goes all the way through and comes all the way around here. So I'm going to have to open this up on both sides to make sure I've got all the epoxy out. The whole area here was slobbergopped with a JB weld, and like I say, I guess it held up for a while, but there's remnants here that I didn't sandblast off a little bit here. So I'm going to get in there and do some Dremel tool work and get all the rest of the JB weld out of there. Okay, I've been grinding in this area with the Dremel tool and I've got it opened up. This little piece of metal has actually been pushed down and kind of out. I think I'm just going to snap this off, and that way I can reposition it back up flush, this surface here flush with the rest of the inside of the crankcase, clean all the crud out of down inside there, and weld around it real good. It's moving a little bit right now. There's not a lot holding it on. I'm going to grab a pair of pliers. I think that'll just snap right off. You know, a lot of guys I notice when they weld up a crankcase, they don't clean down around the bottom of the crack. You gotta grind some metal away so you could get to the base material deep down in there, so you got good penetration. Laying the weld on top of the crack really doesn't do anything structural. So don't be scared when you're welding to open the crack up a little bit. Oh, there it goes. Wasn't held on there by much. So we'll clean this all out in here. We'll clean this off around here. I'll bolt the cases together, bolt this piece on so it lines up, and we'll get a good fit on it. And I think that'll be the best repair for this area. Okay, that's snapped right off. We're going to clean this up in here with the file. We'll clean this up around here. I'll be able to get this piece back down where it's supposed to be. I'll line it up with the other case just by bolting it together, and then we'll get our tack welds around there and weld it all the way around. I think that'll be the best repair for this little chunk of metal. Alright, I've taken a couple of files, a half round and a rat tail, just kind of cleaned up in there a little bit. I took the piece of scrap I was using and I took the part of the arc that best matched the radius of the crankcase, and I cut it off so I could get it in there, work with it a little better. And we're just going to clamp it on there lightly right now. We're going to leave the flat edge a little proud of the mating surface. Give me a little extra to work with. And then I'm just going to take an awl and just scratch in the outline of what I want of the repair part. Then we'll cut that out with a coping saw and fit it up. Okay, that's the, we're going to cut that shape out and fit it up into the crankcase. Alright, let's see how we made out. not too terrible bad. A little filing, she'll be ready to go. Alright, so here's where we're at. Fabricated piece, the broken off screw boss. Everything's been cleaned up, filed down, wiped off with acetone. What I do to locate this repair part is, well, I just jam a wood screw in between the crankcase and the repair part. The screw wedges the repair part into the crankcase, into the opposite side of the crankcase, and holds it. So I'll be able to get my weld in over here and over here, take the screw out, weld the rest of the way around. This one here I should be able to weld pretty much all the way around right up to the edge. I'll probably put a tack on one side and start on the other side, and probably do the same thing. I put a tack over here, then weld as close to the screw as I could get on both sides, take the screw out. Then of course there's just no way to weld the inside without separating the case halves. So anyway, it's going in the oven for an hour or so. We'll bake it at 350 or thereabouts, and I'll come back out and weld it. Okay, this crankcase has been baking for about an hour. I'm sure it's up to temp. I use 4043 rod on them. Let's get it welded. So let's wrap this project up. The memory card, of course, filled up during the welding part of it, so you know, that wasn't all videoed. And I got done welding, took it out to the dirty shop, put it on the milling machine. I had a boring bar and was able to round this all down over here to get it to match the original radius of the crankcase. I did blend it a little bit with the Dremel tool. But anyway, got that looking pretty good. Lessons learned. I thought that this aluminum would weld a lot better than a Harley crankcase does, or did. It doesn't really. There are a few pits in here, and it did suffer from the usual oil boiling up out of cast aluminum. I'm a little surprised at that. I thought it would have welded better. Prior to taking a TIG torch to this, I had a couple of pieces of the scrap aluminum plate, and I practiced on them a little bit just to get the torch settings right, and they welded absolutely beautifully. So I'm going to attribute the defects here not to me and not to the torch, but rather to the aluminum. The bare clean aluminum out of the scrap pile welded up just fine. Outside, it looks like this. Let's get you in there so you can see it. The outside appearance I'm generally pretty happy with. Smooth beads, no pits, no blowholes. Looks pretty good. So I'm happy with that. I'll be getting this thing boxed up and sending it back to Kincade, and I hope he enjoys this promo, and I'm looking forward to seeing his promo for me. Let me bolt this thing up and I'll show you one other thing on it. Alright, here's my last QA thing I do with crankcases that I weld. I got the smallest feeler gauge I got is a 1.5 thou, and just to make sure, the bolts, a couple of bolts are missing, but 95% of them are in. Last thing I do is I check to make sure that I can't insert a feeler gauge all the way through to make sure the cases haven't welded. I did find one spot right here where the feeler gauge goes in part of the way, and it's right at the beginning of the weld area, and then all through the weld area, for all intents and purposes, it really doesn't go in at all. Maybe it really doesn't go in at all. So all throughout the weld area it's good. Areas outside the weld area, I am getting just the tip of it is slipping in a little bit. So anyway, 100% confident in this repair. Cases are still straight. They should seal up just fine with whatever sealer Kincade tries to use on this thing, or uses on this thing when it puts it back together again. So all in all, I'm calling this done. I got a good result on it. Way better than JB Weld. Way better than JB Weld. So there you have it. Get your little close-up zoom in over there. Yeah, way better than JB Weld. Like I said, a little disappointed in the quality of the Japanese aluminum. I thought that it would weld better than it did. But hey, I guess that's to be expected on a crankcase. Anyway, all done. I am out of here. Please subscribe, and thanks for watching. Visit Kincade's, that's Kincade Pavich's YouTube pages. I'll put the link to his YouTube site down in the description here below. I am out of here. We'll see you next time. I got some Harley cases to work on. Bye.